a situation on behalf of a friend. Who's the friend, and what's the situation? He was still looking queasy. What in heaven's name is a growler? It's a dog from Ted's with his famous Texas chili sauce. Famous? Given the odor it leaves, may I suggest infamous would be the more appropriate word for it. The guy was getting on my nerves. I flipped a Lucky out of the pack in my shirt pocket and fired it up. That's actually quite an attractive ashtray, Summerson said, indicating the object I dropped the match into. Or would be attractive if its rim wasn't thick with oozing toxic substances. Is it Indian brass? It's Egyptian. Anyway, that's where I bought it, in a souk. It's a souvenir of my tenure as a United States Army MP in Cairo. Now he examined me almost approvingly. So you worked with British intelligence. That must have been fascinating, and I should think quite important to the war effort. Actually, I was working with U.S. Army unintelligence. There was a whole lot of that going on, in case you haven't heard. It's lucky the Japs and the Nazis were even dumber. I have indeed heard from many that that was the case. My job, I went on, was keeping the few American GIs who hadn't shipped across the Mediterranean to join the fight from having too nice a time while their buddies were getting shot at up in Europe. Like busting soldiers for smoking hashish out of a glass coffee pot, or grabbing belly dancers' veils, or what have you. When I enlisted, it's what the Army, in its lack of wisdom, decided I'd be good at. The 312 from Harrisburg chuffed by, its engine's sulphurous fumes wafting through the window like a breeze from Lucifer. But Mr. Waterman, I was told you had been a police officer prior to your military service, so wasn't an MP designation altogether suitable? I had just made detective here in Philly before I went in, but I wasn't investigating crimes in Egypt. I was rounding up drunks and dope fiends, and quite a few perverts too, of course, so they could be properly cashiered and told to scram on back to East Jesus. Summerson frowned at either the fact or the language. I should think that must have been hard for you, what with your being that way yourself. The clothesline wobbled. I leaned over and tugged up the box with the 2 bottles of pop, my 7-Up and Summerson's Coke. I had put a quarter in the box, and I snatched up my 15 cents change. If somehow Summerson wasn't going to work out as a client, I'd need the extra cash. I said, "See that?" I directed Summerson's attention to a framed certificate I'd hung on the wall in a dim corner of the office. He squinted and said, "I can't read it from here. What is it?" "It's my discharge from the Armed Forces of the United States of America, under other than honorable conditions." "Oh, my word." "Nobody mentioned this to you, Byron. It's known around town. It's the reason I didn't go back to the cops after the war." I handed him his Coke. He took it, but didn't drink. "No, I wasn't told." "I'm relieved my name comes up for anything else." I sucked in some more scratchy reassurance from my smoldering Lucky. "So you were, what, arrested for one of the offenses you yourself were arresting others for? How perfectly dreadful." I thought about adding a little kickapoo flavoring to my 7-Up from the bottle in my desk drawer, but had the sense to wait until Summerson left a cash deposit. "You'd never know it from the recruiting posters," I told him, "but the Army does have a flair for irony. I was turned in by a fellow investigative officer who came back to our room one night while I was enjoying the company of a nice man named Idris, who normally cleaned the latrines. On this particular occasion, this pleasant chappie was cleaning my latrine, and that didn't go over well with my commanding officer when he heard about it." Summerson clung to the Coke bottle he was holding and was looking a bit green around the gills again. My, you seem to have a taste for the exotic, Mr. Waterman. An Arab, for goodness sake, like T.E. Lawrence." The report said something to the effect of, "Sergeant Waterman was discovered in the act of being buggered by a wog." A week later, I was on a ship home. Summerson seemed to ruminate over this for a moment, took a delicate swig of his Coke, and came to a conclusion. "In that case, I think you are just the man to take on a situation involving a similar injustice."